Hey there, my name is Pravus and welcome to Homeseek. This is a new post-apocalyptic survival city builder that shows some similarity both in theme and in playstyle to games like Frostpunk, which of course immediately grabs my attention. This game is intended to be difficult. You will lose people, you will run out of critical resources, and you will have to make some hard choices. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that your colony survives, right? So let's go ahead and jump into a game here. Now, this is broken up into several different chapters of a story, and I've only just gotten started with Chapter 1, so I haven't played that far into it, but I do have a feel for what the game is going to be offering. And we'll go ahead and replay this just so you can see how actually brutal even Chapter 1 really can be. Now, there are some narratives and cutscenes in this game to introduce you to the world and just how bad things have become. Basically, a few decades ago, the bombs fell and the water dried up and Earth became an inhabitable wasteland. Humans have tried living under bunkers and scrounged whatever resources they could, but now they're running out, and we have to get back out into the surface. And it is dry and arid. Water is more valuable than gold ever was. And that introduces us to Part 1, Chapter 1, Thirst. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Of course, this does function a little bit like a tutorial, and it does give you some objectives, though some of these objectives are timed, so do try to pay attention to these and not waste a lot of time. So, let's go ahead and pause real quick. So up at the top, you're going to notice that there are 4 different indicators for water over here, which is interesting, because water really is just that important. You can gather up salty, useless water, contaminated water that you can drink, but people get sick, poor water, but it's a lot safer, and then eventually clean water. So you can imagine there are going to be ways of gathering up these different sources and trying to process them into something very useful. Food, of course, very important as well, and then we do have scrap, which represents all of our building materials. Everything is constructed from scrap. We do have a number of citizens over here, 15 currently available out of 15. No one has any jobs. You can also see how many houses we have set up at the moment, and down here we also have the average happiness. If this gets too low and people are depressed, well then they just outright might desert. Down here in the bottom we have a few buttons unavailable right now. We'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and take a look at our different buildings. Collectors and conversion. Right now, water extractors are our only options, so we're going to go ahead and place that right over here. We're also going to go ahead and place down some food storage and water storage. So food storage, we want to place somewhere close to these berry bushes, ideally close to a couple of them. Let's say something like this is probably going to be ideal, and I also want to get some water storage. I'm thinking something kind of like up over here, believe it or not. And I'll explain more about why that's important in a second, but you might be able to look at these crops over here, this farming area, and think, oh, that makes sense. You want to place water somewhat close by. So let's go ahead and get this stuff constructed. I'm going to go ahead and speed forward at 3 times speed. Things do build very quickly, so no real problem there. Now, one little quirk about this game is in order to actually get your resources properly stored, you need to build up some connections. So I'm going to go ahead and first assign 5 people to gather up some scrap, and you can see that starting to build up. We're going to assign 5 people to start gathering up some water from the water extractor, which gets me some contaminated water, but then we need to actually store this, and it's not currently going anywhere. This is where the Connections tab comes into play, so right over here, we can create a new connection that is an output and drop it off in this storage. Now, with water in particular, you can use some tubing to actually get these things connected. If you build it out of copper, it's very cheap, but it's only 70% efficient. You're going to lose some water along the way. And considering that the water is so valuable, it's probably worth using plastic. Far more efficient, far more expensive. Nonetheless, you can see the tubes are now hooked up, and we do have a proper connection, so our people will be dropping off water in the storage. Over here, I need some people to start gathering up some berries, and very similarly, we want to go ahead and get a connection over to this food storage, and bada boom. The reward for this, of course, is that now we get some extra happiness for our people, and we move on to the next mission, daily needs. We have only 1 day to gather up 750 water, food, and scrap. All right, fair enough. Let's go ahead and push play and move forward. So people are now gathering this stuff, and it does gather fairly quickly. Right now we're producing 1,531 contaminated water per day, though I will note these sources are not infinite. Eventually they will deplete, and that is your real danger in this game. Also, every one of your people is going to be consuming 50 water per day and 50 food per day. So you can see our total right now, we do have a pretty good surplus of contaminated water, but not so good on other things, like, let's say, food. I'm gonna pull a couple of people off of the water for a brief moment. Let's go ahead and assign a couple more to go gather up some scrap, just trying to get these up to that 750 value by the end of the day so that we can get ourselves all the way up there. And we have some Strangelanders arriving. All right, we have no choice but to accept. Some people are going to be upset, but they do bring along some much-needed water, food, and some scrap. 9 more people to work with. All right, that's not half bad. That should be enough to finish up our mission, I believe. We also do have an overcrowding mission, build up some housing. That's no problem. All right, so that happiness comes right back. Now we can certainly spend some of that scrap. I'm going to go to quality of life over here, and this allows us to place down some very simple housing. So how about one there? Now, apparently holding down shift to try and click down multiple buildings does not work for some reason, which I would love to see changed at some point, especially for things like housing, but to be honest, it's not like we're building housing like every 2 minutes or anything. This is a pretty small thing, so oh well. Now, during the nighttime, people are going to rest. They're not going to do any work, though there might be ways of increasing some work shifts later. I haven't gotten that far in the game, but I would not be at all surprised. We're just waiting until, I don't know for sure, but I think it's about, what is it, 7, 8 a.m. or whatever? Yeah, it's 8 a.m., and then people will get back to work. All right, we have another mission available. Health concerns. People are getting sick because they're drinking terrible water. We need to get some ways of curing the sickness. Best way to do that is to research a medical center. So, we need to go ahead and go to our progress and growth, and we need to gather up enough scrap to place down a research center. This is going to allow us to start getting upgrades. I'm going to place that down immediately. One over, doesn't really matter where you place it, I think. Over here might be okay. So with your research, you are able to upgrade your buildings or unlock new types of buildings. But the cool thing is, it doesn't cost you anything to do research. It is free. So you should always be researching something, one way or another. Now, we could upgrade something like our water extractor, so we extract 20% faster. That's quite nice. Upgrade our storage space, or we could upgrade our house. But what I want is the medical center. Again, doesn't cost me anything. It takes 2 days to research, but it does tell me that it's going to cost me 350 scrap in order to get this thing built when the time comes. So let's go ahead and get that going. I will have 3 people working over here. And do I have anyone else to spare at the moment? Absolutely not. So, okay. And another mission. We need to build up an expedition center. So under the same progress and growth bar over here, we can build up an expedition center, and this is going to allow me to send people out into the world and start looking for goodies. I'm not going to worry about that this exact second. Let's go ahead and get the medical stuff taken care of first. If I can get at least another person over here, I'd like to get this down just a little bit faster, but no, not enough time. Dang it. All right, well, we weren't quite able to get this done in time, but I do want to have 5 people on this pretty much at all times from here on out. So I'm going to pull 1 person off of scrap, get back to food. So 9 people are gathering scrap, 5 people researching. We have some food, we have some water coming in. This is barely sustainable right now, but eventually our population is going to continue to grow. Case in point, a messenger is arriving. We can say we need some more time, or we are ready to have them join us immediately. I'm not actually ready to have them join me immediately, but I guess we're going to go ahead and do it. I'm a little bit concerned about how fast we will be consuming things like water. It might be worth trying to go for some extra food and water production. We'll see what happens once these folks do join me. Let's go to quality of life, get a medical center. Where am I going to place it? Good question. How about over here, I guess? This should be fine. And actually, this is one of those cases where pulling a couple of people off of things like scrap would not be a bad idea, because I need to have this built ASAP because some people are getting sick and I want to have them recovering. So let's get that built and we complete the wasteland medicine. People are going to be just a little bit happier. I'm going to assign the 2 people maximum to this building so we can have 4 occupants and try to get everyone treated who might currently be sick. How many people are sick? Just 2 right now? All right, we should be able to handle that. Let's go back to our research. I'm going to go to our collection, and we're going to try to boost up our water collection rate of 20% there. That seems pretty good. Okay, and of course the storm is now bearing down on us. We can indeed have dust storms. That's no good. People are going to be trapped for the most part in their shelters. Also, some resources just got depleted. This scrap pile is now gone. So I'm going to go ahead and assign the other 3 people back to this one, and we should be fine. I am a little bit low on some other stuff. I think people got pulled off their water extractor and research job because they're sick, but hopefully they'll be able to go back to this pretty soon. Now, I would also like to go ahead and get that expedition center, so can I place that somewhere over here? Sure, right here would be fine. Let's get that built. Now, with this expedition center already set up, what we can do is create a new expedition. It does require a minimum of 3 people to send something out. Now remember that people do need water and food as they travel. This is something that's different from Frostpunk, where people didn't consume anything at all. We could send them with a bunch of water, we could send them with a bunch of food, and I will send them with at least some. I'm also going to send along, let's say, 100 scrap, just in case we run into something where we actually need to use it to get through some events, but blah, blah, blah. This should be fine. 1 day of food, 1 day of water. So, we're going to wait for these guys to gather up, which should not take very long at all, and then once this is done, we can send them out to the main map. Okay, so here we are with our expedition. We can go out to the main map, and here's a bunch of different sites where we can do some exploration. The only place available to us right now is the Mudlands, so I'm going to right-click over here. It's going to take 11 hours to make that trip, so let's go ahead and travel. Now, given how precious resources are, one thing you certainly could do is deliberately not send any food and water with your people. If it's a relatively quick trip, they can go ahead and spend more than one day traveling to and from a place, and they should be fine. They'll come back cranky, exhausted, and starving, but they'll survive. So that is certainly one thing you could do. Now that we've arrived, the game is automatically going to pause. We can go over here to the Mudlands, and you can see that there are going to be some events. So the cracked earth and sand give way to viscous mud, huh? All right, we can check inside some sort of an old ship looking for anything of value. I'll certainly do that, though by making that decision, we are spending a little bit more time exploring here, and in doing so, of course, we'll consume more food and water. So always be careful. Sometimes you're going to have to pass on opportunities simply because you didn't bring enough resources with you, and if you stay around, your people are going to die. Don't want to do that. Now, one thing that I don't love is that when you have completed this, it immediately jumps on to the next thing, and you can't easily see what your reward was. In this case, we did get 500 scrap from this arrangement, so that was actually pretty good. I'm then going to probably offer some scrap to a mysterious figure and see what happens there. Scrolling up again, looks like we get some happiness because it was a nice thing to do, and then we are going to start studying, and this is the automatic default option. We have no choice. Usually, by the time you are done exploring an area, what you're going to do is unlock a new type of building. Ah, the wetlands over here. Convert contaminated water into pure water. So we now have a method of changing our water and converting it to something better. Apparently by making use of some reeds that exist in this area. All right, that's fine. I'm going to have these guys go ahead and start moving over here to campus, but then afterwards we'll probably go ahead and head back home. Going to our research, let's see, can we go ahead and start working on that immediately before the people get back? Yes, we can. So let's go ahead and start researching those wetlands. That's going to take us another 6 hours. Okay, we've arrived over here. There are some survivors, apparently. We could tell them to join. They might be dangerous, and yeah, some of these decisions could actually backfire against you terribly, but I'm going to go ahead and say that these are fellow survivors. Let's go ahead and try to get them to come back, which it looks like they will do. And then, yeah, we got 6 people. Salvage some scrap or leave some experiments alone at a chemical engineering plant. I'm going to go ahead and try to gather that stuff up, though I'm pretty sure this does lead to a bad event. Yeah, we gained a lot of scrap, but some people are now injured. All right, and then we are going to wait for the campus to be complete, and we get the community center, a place where we can vote and apply some laws. How exciting. But we have a bunch of survivors I need to bring back home, so let's go ahead and begin that trek. Okay, the wetlands are done. We could increase their input. We could improve the conversion rate. That seems like a great idea. Let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go over here, and we're going to be placing this sucker down. Now, ideally, somewhat close to where the farms are probably going to go, and also our water storage. But I need it to be in a place where it can reach both water storages. Let's do this, I guess. This should be fine. That way, any water that we gather from either source can be dropped off over here and then sent right back into storage. 2 people have deserted me because they were depressed. Well, that is unfortunate. And now we're about to have a heat wave. This leads to a rationing quest. We need to find a way of better distributing out some of the water more efficiently. That sounds great. What it's saying is the mall would be a good place to go. Let's actually check the expeditions here. Don't see the mall yet. We have a local library, a university, and an old farm. All right. I happen to know, having played here before, that the old mall is actually right here. And first we have to go to, let's say, the farm in order to unlock it. So we're going to do that immediately. Ah, the wetlands are done. All right, let's go ahead and assign 4 people there. I'm going to, again, set up some connections. So create a connection over here using plastic pipes. It's definitely worth it. Same thing is going to be true over here. Again, plastic pipes, totally worth it. And then you are going to have a storage connection, which we apparently cannot do. It has to be an empty area. Dang it. All right, fine. Let's go ahead and get another water storage set up somewhere. How about right over here? This should be fine. And there we go. We go ahead and set that up over here. And again, plastic pipes. Boom. All right. So now we should see during the work hours, which is right not now, we will be getting poor water. So the odds of people getting sick should be dropping quite a bit by now. Note, by the way, that we are starting to run low on water. This is starting to go away. It does eventually replenish itself a little bit, but yeah, we're going to be running out of water pretty soon. It's a good thing we're building up a huge stockpile now while we can. Yeah, actually, it's telling me right here that the wells are starting to deplete. Fun. All right, we have to keep sending expeditions until we find a way out of this. This is warning me that, yeah, you are on the clock. Eventually, there will not be any water, and you are going to start losing a lot of people, or at least get down to a bare-bones skeletal crew. So if we want to win this particular chapter, this particular story, we need to find a way to get the heck out of this valley. There's really no point in staying here. It's not going to be able to sustain life for very long. Okay, we've arrived at the mall. Let's see. There's apparently another expedition of some sort. We could set up a small camp. Sure, let's hope that people are going to recover. That's going to take a little bit of time, but that's hopefully going to end up being okay. And moving on. No, people apparently died from damage. Well, that's no good. We can search corpses. No, I'm going to say leave them there, honestly. We're kind of out of time for a lot of things here. We didn't bring any resources along. I just need to get this done. So let's go ahead and finish this up and then send these guys back home. We did find a way to reduce that water consumption. That is great. So let's stop that there. Go back to our research, where I just researched the farm, so that's done. And then under storage, the water distribution center is an option, so we can cover need for water more efficiently. Also, let's place down that farm in the only location where we are capable of doing so. That's why I set this up over here after all. And can I set up some contaminated water over here? Yes, I'd rather do that than send our clean water off in this direction. Let's go ahead and get as many people assigned over here as possible, and now we're converting water directly into food. And considering these berry bushes are not going to last forever, that is a very good idea. What do we discover here at the evacuation center? There apparently are paths through fortifications and stuff like that, or we could look for a detour that might be less dangerous. I'll go ahead and do that, even though it may take a little more time. People are starving. Could be something in their food and water. We could unpack their rations. Let's see, we find some stuff here. Yeah, there were skeletons. So did they die from what they gathered or no? I'm going to go ahead and take the risk. Let's go ahead and take their rations and pray that wasn't what got them killed. Turns out we were right to trust our instincts. There was a lot of good stuff. Cool. And apparently we have found a way out of the valley. Excellent. All right, so that gets our happiness back up. Goal now, find a location to settle to and have 12 citizens not depressed or exhausted. The mountain pass. I'm going to go ahead and make a beeline directly for that. We should have enough food and water to easily survive that at this point. Expedition has arrived. What do we want to do? We could start clearing out a path. I think we're going to go ahead and try to clear out some ways for a way to reunite with our fellow survivors. The map indicates the best chance of finding water lies on the other side of the mountain. Let's go ahead and give that one a go. We are going to have some people abandon expeditions and take damage, but I think it's ultimately going to be worth it because we have now successfully found a way out. Excellent. And we get ourselves a little cutscene saying, oh, everything is horrible and we're facing insurmountable odds, but for some reason we may actually have hope. Hope for survival, hope for change. Nothing too crazy, you've seen it all before. So we survived for 10 days. It took me a little bit of time here to get this done. 47 survivors in total, 9 people died and 6 deserted. That's actually worse than the last time that I played this, which is interesting. Discovered 7 locations, we researched a few buildings and upgrades, we only voted on 1 law, oh well. So, now we are going to continue with Part 1, Chapter 2, Rivals. It does have like a very long zooming and panning intro to every one of these missions. I'm not too sure why that's the case. I feel like you could have done this in half the time, but that's probably fine. A second sanctuary. All right, so I breezed through the first mission because I'd already done it, and it's just kind of a tutorial. Now we're going into something blind, and I might very well get my people killed. So we need to find technology that's going to allow us to transport water up. So we need pumps, basically. Research that technology once it has been found, and now elevation is indeed a concern. Cannot form a water connection from a low level to a high one unless we have the Archimedes screw. Fair enough, but we can use gravity from going up-down, so okay, that's good to know. Well, the most important thing I can do right now, go ahead and get things like our food properly set up and connected like so, get some people assigned. And we're gonna have to do the same thing over here with some water, just like before. Though it's interesting, we do get to keep a lot of the stuff we researched from last time, including some stuff I didn't research, like a food distribution center. Well, okay, that's helpful. Let's try to get a research center set up as quickly as I can, just because I know I'm going to want that. And we've discovered a bunch of half-rotten corpses. They apparently died violently. Ooh, good. Okay, violent marauders, huh? Do we tell everybody that this is something to be scared about, and be prepared for the worst, and their vexation rises? Or do we not worry people unnecessarily? I'm gonna keep it a secret, but I've got a feeling that that's gonna end up being the wrong call. We never actually did build any of these special Warka towers or whatever they're called. Let's go ahead and place one of these down. I want this thing to ideally be close enough to our water that it can be collected. You can't just place these all over the place. You can actually see from this red area here that if they are overlapping, you get less efficiency. So we want to place these close enough to our water storage, but not so close that they are interfering with each other. Unfortunately, it does look like we lose all research from what we had before. All right, that's going to have to be okay. Any quality of life that I desperately need first. I'm going to go ahead and grab the research rate just because that always is a good first investment. And rain is on the way. Well, that's extremely nice. And the Warka Tower over here, you can see, by the way, is producing 18 per hour. It's not a lot of water. It's practically just a trickle. But every little bit of extra water during the nighttime hours is going to count. I'll take it. Okay, now in addition to the Archimedes screw, I need to find some technology that's going to allow us to collect water directly from the river. That would actually be fantastic, which I can see is now flowing at a pretty good rate, thanks to the rain. Well, that's nice. Of course, we also desperately need to get ourselves an expedition center so I can discover those critical technologies that are going to save my life. So let's go ahead and place one of these over here. Now, what's this? The Dust Devils, pair of wastelanders clad in makeshift armor, approach the camp. Probably the people who, killed others. We could protest and their vexation rises, or we could pay them tribute. To be honest, I think in this case, we could just go ahead and offer payment. I'm not in a position where I feel like I can afford to make any enemies right now, which is a little bit of a pushover thing to do, I am understanding that. However, I would like to live. So let's not worry about that. So now that we have a food distribution center and a water distribution center, that should cut down consumption of food and water by about 20%, which definitely is going to go a long way to keeping us more sustainable, at least until we can get access to the river. All right, expeditions are now an option. I'm going to go ahead and send, let's say, 5 people with no food and water for now, because as long as they move quickly, I feel good about that. Maybe I should have sent them with some scrap, I'm not sure. Our lay of the land is terrible, by the way. The longer we are here, the faster our traveling speed will become by default. For now, I'm hoping just to go to the quick ruined village and then just head right back home. So what do we have up over here? This is interesting. Our citizens have medium vexation. If they reach the max, people will abandon our community. Versus the bandits have low vexation. Okay, so this is something interesting then. We have to manage reputation with our internal and external factions if we want to survive. And there's now refugees. Okay, I'm going to accept it. 12 more people. Well, that's a lot of people we need to feed and stuff, but we've got a little bit of scrap to spare. If I can get some housing taken care of fairly quickly, maybe we can set up some additional food and water production over this way. So, what do we discover? The water collector. Contaminated water from flowing rivers and salt water from the sea. Seems good. How long would it take for us to get to the next area? The History Museum? You know, 8 hours is a long time, especially since I didn't send these guys with any food and water, but I'm willing to give it a go. Now, we can start collecting from the river. It's going to take a lot more scrap than I've got right now, because I'm not gathering it very aggressively. Fugitives, wearing the Dust Devil colors. They are demanding to speak to us. They claim they are in possession of we are in possession of slaves that are theirs. Oh, it's the wounded survivors. Yeah, no, frick off. All right, so we get a bit of vexation. Hopefully not enough to, really get them to attack me, but I'm not in the mood to deal with all that nonsense. Water collector. We're going to go ahead and place this along here, I guess. We can probably actually place this several places along the river. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Sabotage. Great. Lose a freaking ton of water. Nice, 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 nice. I wonder if the odds of that go up the more you have vexation amongst your own people. That would make sense, right? Now, here's something new. Okay, some buildings apparently require power to function. So we actually can, indeed, get power. Solar panel, water mills, etc. And that's going to let us start doing some special stuff with different buildings. I guess the Purification Center is something we'll be able to get as an example. But okay, yeah, we can now research the Purification Center. So what does this do? Takes a more efficient form of getting contaminated water and turning that into pure water. Well, it's a good thing I didn't waste a lot of time working on wetlands. We may want to get this instead. Oh, geez, but the Purification Center is a really big building. Great. I'm not sure I have a great way of making use of this. I wanted to have this down by the river. Now it's not looking like that's very feasible. We could destroy some buildings, I guess. Yeah, it might be worth doing that, honestly. Oh, crud. And the bandits are now starting to raid. Okay, we can take shelter and we'll lose a lot of stuff, or we can try to mount a defense. I guess we'll try mounting a defense, but I imagine this is going to go terribly for us. Yeah, they still make off with pretty much all the same stuff, but now a lot of my people are injured. Okay. This is why sometimes it's best to not fight back. However, despite the fact that we did lose a lot of folks, apparently we did manage to get 12 more people. Right, okay. I guess he found some friends. Cool. I definitely could use some more workers, so this is not the worst thing in the world. Big issue I'm running into right now is mainly, space apparently is a much more delicate thing than I was expecting in this game. Mainly because, well, when you need certain things like water collectors have to go to their own individual water storage to go to the Archimedes screw to go to the farm, that's a lot of steps and a lot of space required, you know what I mean? I'm gonna try passing a law to community center here. Depression is a made-up condition. Oh, that's objectively untrue. But we can try to get people to be like, if you're depressed, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and keep working. Gosh dang it, we need you. And now let's build that giant purification center I was talking about. This is gonna be a way of us getting a lot of water, which we are completely out of now, by the way, now that I think about it. What the heck has happened here? Why is our production halted entirely? The water collector seems to be doing absolutely nothing. I do wish I could make use of the same storage for multiple types of water, mainly because this feels very, very space inefficient. But alright, now as we are producing water, we should be able to do this. We do not have enough power. Okay, we're producing how much power? 3? How much do you need? Not got enough at the moment, apparently. Consumes 6. So I need to get myself a second one of these windmills, which is producing only 3, and gosh, I don't have a lot of room to work with over here. Okay, let's get the water distribution center, another one of those, to be a little bit more efficient with my cleaner water. Okay, now the purification center is up and running. Okay, and of course we'll get this set up, and we need to get somebody else working over here, and we're gonna try to be more efficient with our water now, so our food and water is looking a little bit better. Scrap I'm still struggling with at the moment, but we should be able to fix that. All right, so let's go ahead and say that depression is indeed a made-up condition. We'll have the people who are working over here, instead of working on getting things voted on, they're going to go ahead and make sure that this gets properly implemented. That'll be helpful. Okay, hang on. We just finished another round of expeditions, which is going to apparently unlock a tower that can reduce the impact of dust storms. That's nice. Now we have the actual victory condition. Find a way to escape this land's perils, because everything is awful. Let's go to the soup kitchen. Find out what the heck is going on over there. I am assuming that, like with the other mission, if we can just unlock the ideal location here, we should be able to get the heck out of Dodge. We did find some sort of a seaside trail over here. Might be a way to get away from the Dust Devils. And need to relocate, send a messenger back. All right, so this actually should be victory. Yes, there we go, okay. So it does seem like we are going to be nomads moving from location to location for every mission, which probably makes sense in a post-apocalyptic world. We wouldn't really want to stay put for too long. On the other hand, it does mean we're not going to have the time to build out like a really cool city. You should almost approach each of these little missions as a scenario, a puzzle that needs to be solved with the most optimal possible path. And I definitely did not find it. But that's okay, it's a learning experience, it's a new game. 43 survivors, 8 people did die, and 1 deserter overall. 9 locations explored. So I'll go ahead and say that that's good enough for this particular video, but that is a taste of what Homeseek is like. So you can definitely see some of the harsh choices, very difficult environment, survival city builder mechanics you would expect from other games kind of like Frostpunk. Ultimately, where the story is going to go, I couldn't really say, but the idea behind it at least is certainly solid. If you guys want to learn more about this game, it did just release as of today, so you can find a link in the description down below. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you enjoyed. If so, I'd ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.